Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Come on!
Live from beautiful Tampa, Florida. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Mr. Kastuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Tampa, Florida. We're here live with Miss Mara and Linda, and the rest of the youth of today, guys, are sleeping. Woo! Tampa, this is like a beautiful city. Now I know you live here. Every time I come to one of these places, I'm always like, what am I doing living in the jungle there up in upstate New York? There's actually people and things to do in this city instead of just trees and forests and dirt roads and chipmunks. How are you, Kastuba? How's your re-entry?
Going really well, Raghunath. Happy to be back.
Getting back in the groove, going to Divya's kitchen.
I went the other day. I may even go today. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
How was the concert? How was the show last night?
Let's ask Linda. Come here, Linda.
Okay.
Linda.
Civilian.
Let's ask a civilian. It was her first hardcore show. Hi, Linda. How are you?
Hey.
Everybody know Linda?
Harry Ball.
I think first, Linda, we need to know what kind of music would you normally listen to
Well,
besides
really,
kirtan and stuff like that?
I mean, really, it's pretty much only kirtan these days.
That's
But
one big
I
thing.
like to listen to some 80s music. I'm an 80s kid. Yeah.
Little Cyndi Lauper. What are you listening to there?
I don't
Prince?
know. Just whatever the 80s hits on the streaming services, you know.
Okay.
In the car mainly is where I would listen to non-kirtan music. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. But when I was young, my son's father was in a like heavy metal band. So it's not
Plot twist.
so it wasn't a wild departure from places I've been before, but
Okay.
I never thought 30 years later I would be back in one of those clubs listening to that kind of music again. But it was honestly amazing. I could not stop smiling. First of all, it's like one of Raghunath's kirtan classes because all the things he talks about are the same things, like positive mental attitude, like control your thoughts, all of those things.
He's a preacher up there, right?
It really surprised me because I looked at the crowd and I thought, oh, there's no way these guys are going to be into this. But they were like clapping and yelling and encouraging him. And people came up to him after saying, you're really changing people's lives. I mean, it was amazing. And the energy is incredible. And he took 2 cases of his books and sold every single one. And if he had had more, he would have sold more. So that
Look at you,
that
Raghunath. You've
was
become a big book distributor. 2 cases, Raghunath.
very encouraging.
Finally, your prayers at Radhakund have come true. May Raghunath become a book distributor. You're like, I didn't mean that, Radhakund. I
Not
meant
that book.
Prabhupada's books. Mara, how'd you fare yesterday?
It was so fun. It was a great time. The energy of the audience and the relationship that like you guys have with the audience is just, it's really sweet and uplifting, and they're so inspired.
It is like a kirtan or a class, except everybody's a little dirtier and grungier and jumping on each other. Otherwise, it's not that much different than what I do.
Right.
But it's, I will say, it is a little exhausting, and it's like
like a full body workout. It's like a full body workout up there for you guys.
It
How long
is.
do you go?
I woke up and just like, oh God, man, creaky and sore, and you're just jerking my body all over the place.
You put in about an hour up there? How much time?
About an hour. That's not that
Who
much.
opened for you?
Local bands. I'm not quite positive. Some devotees showed up and gave. It happened to be Krishna Miracle, right across from this little mini Krishna temple.
Oh,
Really, yeah. Vivishwan, who I've known for years, I didn't realize they had a place right there. But that was Krishna's arrangement, and yeah, I just want to. While we're here, I just want to make some announcements. I'm going to be in the West Coast in a couple weeks, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm doing a Wednesday Kirtanic Veda Yoga, which is the 10th. Yoga in Culver. I'm sorry, Veda Yoga Culver City. That's the 10th. Thursday at the Krishna Lounge in San Diego. That is the 11th. Friday at Yoga 108. That is the 12th. Saturday, April 13th. Okay, let's see. Morning. Oh, and then I'm going on Monday. Let's see. Monday, I'm going to be with Jonavi Harrison at Bhakti SF, San Francisco. And then Tuesday with Jonavi Harrison again. Somehow I got Jonavi Harrison roped into my book release / Kirtan.
Wow.
That is on April 16th. So I'm going to post all that stuff at Raghunath Yogi or on Facebook. So check that out. And we're going to be trying, it's going to be a little bit of a crazy schedule. So the next 3 days, we can't have a show because of my weird travel schedule. I'm a little sad about that. But I'm happy I have a voice because that's what I was really worried about. It's really hard.
Now you don't need one.
It's so hard to do the podcast and to chant japa when you tear up your voice on stage. So I'm trying to be really delicate.
Delicate on stage?
Delicate with, pushing my voice on stage.
Break
I'm very delicate
down
on stage. Okay, everyone.
the walls.
Stage dive, please. How are you?
I remember Guna Maharaj asked me once, okay, Raghunath's doing that up on, but does he have to get into it like that? I'm like, yeah, he has to get into it like that.
Are you kidding? They'll hate me if I don't.
All right.
Yeah, they tried to understand it. It's a whole thing.
All right, we got announcements from Mara?
Well, it's Q&A day, but Miss Mara, what are some regular old announcements here?
Bhakti Recovery Group meetings at 9:30, 11, and 12:30 Eastern Time.
Okay.
All right.
That's it.
That's it. So today's Q&A day. If you're new to this, welcome. Once a week we answer questions that people send in, and if you want to, if you have a question you want answered, write it to Miss Mara. She keeps a pile of them, then she distributes them to us. wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com.
All right.
Want to dive right in, Prabhu?
I'm ready. Yeah.
This is
What you got?
Michael via email. So he wrote during the email. I'm an other. An other means person who doesn't watch on Zoom. So they're out there listening, but we don't know they're there. It seems like most of our people will be others, but we have a big handful of people who watch us on Zoom. Also, you can write Mara if you want the secret codes to get onto Zoom. I'm an other, and I've been listening mostly daily for about a year now, and subscribed to Patreon about 6 months ago, and can't really find the words to convey the appreciation I feel for the work, for all that y'all do. Okay,
Thank you.
give away that Michael might be from the South. Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for your your monthly contribution on Patreon. I was raised Italian Catholic, check, but the world view found within that faith never made much sense to me.
Okay.
But I had and have a love for Jesus, Mary, and the saints. In my later years, I started learning about traditional Eastern worldviews, mostly Buddhist, and so much of what I learned made sense to me. Rebirth being eternal beings, the law of karma, etc., just made sense to me as I learned about them, and I didn't need to be convinced.
Pieces just start to click into place.
They all start to click together, right? We always say that there's so many wisdoms or nuggets of wisdom in all these spiritual traditions, but we find Vedic culture to be the string or the thread that ties all these pearls of wisdom together. But Buddhism doesn't recognize a personal God. Yeah, that was a tough one for me too. When I came across your podcast that talks about a more traditional Eastern worldview, that made sense to me. For decades, I'm 49. Um, I recognize God, which Buddhism neglects. I felt ecstatic. All that said, there's one problem I found myself with is I basically love Jesus and the saints, but can't call myself a Catholic
No, the one
Christian.
thing you should mention, when he said one problem, he put a question mark there. Like, is this a problem or is it not? I think
Okay, yeah,
that's kind
yeah,
of the nature of the question.
yeah. Due to a disagreement with much of the worldview and its
Why don't you read
philosophy.
the whole sentence again?
All that said, one problem perhaps I found with it, have found myself with is I basically love Jesus and the saints, but can't call myself a Catholic due to a disagreement with much of the worldview and its philosophy. I believe that I've been learning about Krishna and the worldview found within the Srimad Bhagavatam, or at least think, yeah, maybe at some parts, but my heart isn't tugged so strongly by the personal stories. I've been chanting rounds of the Maha Mantra daily, semi-regularly attend kirtan, followed by a study group on the Bhagavad Gita at my local ISKCON, and
The local
for the
temple.
stay for the RT. RT is when they offer the incense to the deities. And I genuinely feel a love for these things. In a way, I feel this situation I find myself in is more about familiarity than anything else. And if I was raised with stories and imagery of Krishna, my heart would possibly be stirred more by them than by the stories of Jesus. I'm not implying that I think faith only comes down to social conditioning, but the familiarity that comes with one's social setting does play a role to a degree. And I'm not just sure how to have my heart stirred as much, if not more, by Krishna as it is by Jesus. Being Westerners yourselves, who I believe may have been raised Catholic, do you have any advice or suggestions for people like me who have some heart feelings for Jesus and the saints, but don't intellectually agree with that faith, while also feeling some smaller heart stirring and basically full intellectual agreement with Eastern Bhakti as presented by the Srimad Bhagavatam and Wisdom of the Sages? Thank you for your time and all of the work that you do. Oh, I like this question, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Jesus and the saints. All right, why don't you take a shot at this first, my friend?
All right. Michael, it sounds, if I were to sum this up, Michael saying, my head is into Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhakti tradition of ancient India, and my heart is still connected to the Catholic, to the deities or the images or the stories and so on. He feels an emotional heart connection to Jesus and to Mary and to various Christian saints. And is that a problem? I guess it's kind of saying, like, how come my heart isn't lighting up in the same way for this as it does for the old stuff? Maybe it's my conditioning, right? Maybe it's just the way that I was raised. And that's probably a fair analysis. But what I really want to start with is to say that there's really not a problem here. If you have a love for Jesus and a love for Mary and a love for the Christian saints, like take a Saint Francis or something like that, what they're presenting, what the essence of what they're teaching, the essence of what they embody and represent, is very harmonious with the Bhakti tradition. And in that sense, there's no problem. This is a very personal consideration. This is something you can't exactly legislate what goes on in someone's heart. We can't say to you, stop loving Jesus, start loving Krishna. It's like your heart is going there. And that's, as Bhakti yogis, a lot of the practice is being careful about where we allow our mind and our heart to dwell, you could say. And if we feel our mind and our heart being pulled into places, like, in a sense, the quote unquote idolatry of the material world, You know, I seem to love this football player and this pop star so much. That could be problematic. You know, like I'm attracted to the material energy. I'm attracted to the illusion. My heart is going out to the illusion. But if your heart is going out to Jesus, well, that's a whole nother thing. That's Jesus is a living model of bhakti yoga as far as we're concerned. And so that's not disharmonious. It's not or disharmonious. It's a beautiful thing. You know, there's a in Lord Chaitanya's Leela, you know, there's one story about he had one within that Vaishnava community, within that community of bhakti yogis, amongst Lord Chaitanya's followers. There's one named Murari Gupta, and he had, you know, Sri Chaitanya. He was teaching, you know, the love of the Vrindavan residents for Radha and Krishna is the very pinnacle of all spiritual realization. It's the highest meditation. It's the deepest love, the most beautiful love, being you know, the very pinnacle of divine love can be found there. And that whole community was moving in that direction. But one member of that community, Murari Gupta, no matter how hard he tried, he just felt he had this love for Lord Ram instead of Krishna. Right?
I love how you brought this story in.
You like this one?
Yeah.
And so he said, I've been, you know, and after some time, he just went to Sri Chaitanya. I've been trying and trying to, in a sense, let go of my love for Lord Ram and allow my focus to be on Radha and Krishna. But I just can't do it. You know, I just can't do it. And Sri Chaitanya actually appreciated that, right? He says, look at your love for Lord Ram. This is, you know, he glorified that love. And
he basically said, you be you. Murari.
Yeah, in a sense, that's what he said.
You.
Yeah. And so all that, so having said all that, let your love for Jesus and Mary and the saints, let it remain, let it flourish. It will not hold you back in any way. It'll enhance your life. But, and I will say that I say that wholeheartedly. You know, this isn't about allegiance. This is about the substance of devotion in your heart. That's the important thing. But let me say this as well. I do think that you may have been onto something when you were speaking about the role of social conditioning. And I think the character of Krishna, for some coming from another tradition, it may be something that your heart wrestles with for a while, to really understand who he is and why he behaves the way he does. But I would just say this, Michael, just keep your heart open. Keep your heart open and read Krishna's Leelas in the Krishna book. Hear about them, you know, and from other sources. And allow whatever is meant to happen to your heart happen. And it may be a gradual process. But this is what I'm saying. I don't want you to close your heart to Jesus and Mary and the saints, the Christian saints. Leave your heart open to that, wholeheartedly open to that, right? At the same time, don't assume that there's not a seed in your heart of love for Krishna, the blue cowherd boy, right? Who roams the forest with his cows and his friends, who's the Akila Rasamrita Murti, the sweet lover of the gopis, the dear friend of the cowherd boys, the darling of Mother Yashoda and Nanda. The beauty in this is there waiting for you, or maybe you're waiting for it. But the two may come together or may germinate at a certain time in you, as long as you leave your heart open to it in a most wonderful way. So just that's my thought. Just leave your heart open to Jesus and keep it open to Krishna too, and let's see what miracles may take place.
You know, I think that was everything I would have said. If I could add one little thing, or embellish one thing that you mentioned was, you know, in a lot of culture, a lot of other Abrahamic, you know, traditions, the idea of now I'm going to, okay, I believe in this, I believe in my God, but now I'm going to, you know, experiment with this other God. it would be considered heresy. We don't think like that. Vedic culture doesn't think like that. It's not like I'm cheating on my wife to have another lover. There's one God. We fully accept that. You can go to a church and pray to Jesus. There's nothing outside what we do to say that's wrong. We think that's very, very right. And I too have attraction towards, I have an attraction towards like, the church organ, during Christmas time and singing all those songs. I love them. I'm totally into them. On Christmas, I'm playing tons of Christmas music or, classical Christmas playlists and things like, especially all the old classical ones and of his Christ and of his word, stuff like that. I'm all about that. And I don't feel like I'm being unchaste to baby Krishna.
Not at all.
Not at all. And I will say, RT, offering the incense and the ringing the bells, it seemed foreign to me. And Krishna's pastimes. Okay, now Krishna's going to punch the donkey demon right in the throat, or the horse demon. I was like, wait a second. I never heard about Jesus punching any donkeys or horses or duck demons. But yeah, you will develop an affection for that, believe it or not. And you can pray to Jesus, help me develop my affection. We are culturally conditioned also, and we were brought up in another culture and to open our heart in such a way. So get God wherever you can get God. We're not getting a kickback from the Hare Krishna movement to convert people here. Find spirit in your life, apply it to your life, and move forward. And I will say, and you're probably already living this, the Sanatan Dharma approach to understanding God, it will resonate with everything within your heart, because it is so complete, and it ties these pearls of wisdom all together. And you shouldn't have to feel guilty about appreciating other cultures' path to God. That's what we should be able to walk into a mosque or a synagogue or an ashram or any type of temple and say, oh, how nice. They're trying to imbibe truth in their life, and they're trying to, upgrade their life. That's a good thing. That's a wonderful thing. That is all.
Thank you, Raghunath. What's next? Want me to read it?
Yeah.
Okay. This is coming from Achyuta
Achyuta.
via the Discord channels. He writes, how can we tell the difference between satisfaction, happiness, and peace stemming from the mode of goodness and that from actual spiritual advancement? When we practice, we change our habits for the better, like getting up earlier, being more clean, doing yoga, meditating, eating pure foods, etc. Coming into the mode of goodness, we experience satisfaction. It might be easy to mistake the pleasure from being in the mode of goodness for making spiritual advancement. So, is there a difference between the two, and how to discern them?
Great question. I asked that question once.
Did you? To who?
Yeah. I asked it to Satyaraj Prabhu.
Okay.
And here's the answer he gave me. I also answered in terms of, how do you know you're just not like tricking yourself into I'm spiritual, but in the same way, someone who's a Christian that might say, I love Jesus, I feel the love for Jesus, and they absolutely think they're right and they feel good about it. And because they're on a path or any path, they feel good about it. And therefore they feel like, yeah, no, it's God talking to me. And how do I know I'm just not fixed? Like, I'm a Hare Krishna devotee and I feel good about that. And all this world is Maya. Any way to sort of like pat me, and you get some pleasure out of feeling like you're on a path. So here he's saying, yeah, or doing these practices of sattva. How do it's just not the pleasure of sattva, mode of goodness, which is regulation and cleanliness, like he mentioned, rising early. How do you know it's not how do you discern between that and actually falling in love with God? And the answer is, at least what Satyaraj gave me, and I think to be true also, is there's truth in it. There's truth in both of them. You do get pleasures from being sattvic, and you do get pleasures from feeling like, okay, now I'm on a path. And it's going to be mixed. It's going to be mixed with a sattva kickback and a focus kickback by being focused and mentally focused and being on a path, and some attraction to Krishna. And one way you can discern is how eager you are to be attracted to Krishna. Do you want to hear about Krishna and chant about Krishna and sing about Krishna and read about Krishna and worship Krishna? That's one of the telltale signs. We always have this joke: if you want to get rid of someone who's bothering you, you go up to them and say, why don't we sit down and read the Bhagavad Gita together? And if they have no attraction to it whatsoever, because they just want to, talk prajapa or just waste your time with empty talk, they'll be repelled from hearing the Bhagavad Gita. But if you say, actually, no, I feel like, I feel like reading a little bit right now. Let's do that. That attraction to the Gita or to hearing spiritual truth, that's a sign of your attachment to God as well. So expect a pleasure and don't hate yourself for that pleasure. Don't beat yourself up. How do I know this is real? Just keep moving forward with those practices, and the attachment for Krishna will naturally come. That's my answer. What do you think about that?
Oh, I agree with you. Maybe just a little background information for some of the listeners. We're talking here about what in the Bhagavad Gita and other ancient Indian yogic books call the gunas, the three modes of material nature. I heard an interesting way of understanding it recently. It's like I suppose when television screens or video screens, they use three different colors. What is it? RGB? Is that what it is? Red, green, blue?
Yeah. Yes.
And so it's just those three colors, but those three colors, they come together in different combinations, and they create a whole spectrum of vision, right? And so similarly, there's three modes of nature. There's three ingredients within the material energy that makes up the world that we live in, including our bodies and even our minds and so on. And it's made up of these three different elements: sattva, which sometimes is translated as goodness or purity; rajas, which is, we call it passion, but really it has to do with more like agitation, needing I need something that I don't have; and tamas, which is the darker mode. Sometimes it's translated as darkness or ignorance. That everything that we're seeing and hearing and smelling and touching and whatever, it's built of a combination of these elements. Just like our screens, these three elements come together on our screens and create different pictures. These three energies are coming together and creating all the forms within this world that we're experiencing. But one of those three in every object becomes prominent, and that object kind of radiates the influence of that. And so there's a kind of a distinct dissatisfaction in the influence of both Rajagun. Rajagun is like, I don't have what I need, I'm determined to get it. And Tamas is more like, everything's terrible. Just like life is misery, and it's a very destructive and self-destructive kind of mode. But the sattva guna, the mode of goodness, this mode of purity, it manifests in this world through lucid thought, through contentment, through peace. And so that when one lives under the influence, in the shelter of that influence, you could say, in this world. And, stereotypically, we could go ahead and picture, I live in a very natural setting on the bank of a lake, and, it's birds chirping, and I'm eating healthy food, and, I'm rising early, and I've got a clear head, and I'm contemplative. These kind of things, these are manifestations of the influence of sattva. And so Achyuta is saying, yeah, when you get into that, naturally you feel a sense of happiness, a sense of satisfaction, a sense of peace inside. But isn't it that sense of peace is still just an absorption in the material realm, and we really haven't even begun to know spirituality yet? What to speak of the deep happiness of spirituality. So we would feel that if I'm becoming happier, I must be doing something right.
Right.
But have I even really approach the transcendental plane? Have I really begun to free myself? And maybe free myself is the kind of language that helps segue into this. You know, it's one could say that if this world is a prison in one sense, and these ancient yogic texts do speak of it that way, then when one really begins to manipulate the world, you could say, in such a way where they're taking shelter of that sattva guna, in one sense, it's just like you found yourself the most comfortable and nicest place within the prison. But you haven't stepped 1 foot out of that prison and really enjoyed true freedom yet. And so that's the point. So now what's the difference? How do we know what the difference is? You could say essentially the difference is, and this is to, you know, I just read, it's funny. I just read a quote. I came across a quote. Maybe I can pull it up quick because I just did it. I just saw it this morning. I'm not gonna say who it's from, but it's from one of these big time, you know, quote unquote guru figures, right?
Okay, I want to hear it.
And he said, remember,
Remember,
freedom is a higher value than love. That's why in India, the ultimate we call moksha, right? Moksha, liberation. Not everybody calls it. Not everyone in India says moksha.
And not everyone thinks that's the ultimate. Yeah,
and definitely not Vyasadeva, who clarifies this all in the Srimad Bhagavatam. No, love is the highest principle. Right? He says moksha means freedom. Freedom is a higher value than love. So if love is destroying freedom, it is not worth. It is not of worth. Oh, so if I'm a mother and I love my child, but the child's kind of messing with my freedom.
Yeah, I know. What kind of philosophy is that? The child took away all my freedom. Now I can't go to my spinning and yoga class. But, you know, moksha is all right. I'm just going to leave this child to the side.
He says love can be dropped. Freedom has to be saved. Freedom is a higher value. You don't, to me, actually, even though it sounds like that's freedom, that's not freedom at all. You're bound. That you are bound by your desires. You're bound by your false sense of freedom. Real freedom is found in love, complete freedom. But anyway, without getting into a whole, you know, nuanced kind of argument against that statement, here's how I would identify the distinction between the happiness found in sattva guna and the happiness found in true spirituality or in bhakti. Is that the happiness found that's in the mere sattva guna is selfish. It's like my only concern is my experience, and it's separate. Sometimes our acharyas will call it a separatist attitude. I am separate from my source. I'm disconnected from my source. I want peace, and I'm going to find my peace and leave me alone. It's a little bit like that.
Right.
Whereas spiritual happiness is found through divine love. And it's experience, you know, our acharyas teach and our shastras teach that this is the very essence of the self. That if we go down to our core, what we find is a lover, right? And a lover is always concerned about the experience of the object of their love. So that happiness is, you think of yourself as being happy temporarily on an island all by yourself because you found your peace, as compared to the love that you experience in the most intimate and special ways that you find in connection with one that you love. The spiritual happiness is like that with God, and through God with every living being. So I think that's essentially the difference. Now, that's not to talk down sattva guna, because sattva guna gives us the lucidity, the clear, lucid mind, the detachment, and so on, to aggressively, we could say, or wholeheartedly approach the practices of bhakti and the teachings of bhakti, understand them clearly, and have the you could say the peace of mind to focus the mind on that object of our love. So we appreciate sattva guna. We encourage people to live in sattva guna, but we also encourage people to understand that's not the goal. That's just the platform from which you launch toward the goal. And the goal is found in divine love. And that's in connection with another living being. And that's entirely selfless.
I would have loved to see your face when you read that quote. Liberation is higher than love.
It was
Freedom
so
is higher
blunt.
than love.
It was said so bluntly.
I've got a great, check this out.
Yeah.
Understanding the three gunas with music. Check this out.
With music.
Mode of goodness, Mozart, Chopin, Bach. Mode of passion, Gorilla Biscuits, Youth of Today, Minor Threat. Mode of ignorance, Cannibal Corpse, Insane Clown Posse.
Insane Clown Posse. Slayer.
Obituary.
Cannibal Corpse.
And I could just see the people who are from that music scene going, I totally get it now. I completely understand the three gunas.
All right,
Prabhu.
what we got?
Next question.
Yeah, who's it coming from?
Oh, this is from Michael via Discord.
I wonder if it's the same Mike. Was there Michael writing via Discord? No, he wrote via an email, so it's probably different Michael.
There's a couple Michaels out there. Our generation, everybody was Michael. Michael, John, David. Now everyone's like Autumn.
Lethem.
What the?
Liam. I think Liam is like the most.
Liam's a new one.
Yeah.
What are some other new modern names?
Olivia.
River.
Autumn.
Lake.
Puddle.
Bale. Apple. Okay.
What's Michael asking about?
With the upcoming solar eclipse in April.
Oh, I remember. I got to pull something up for this. Yeah, keep going.
Could you speak a little
What?
to the significance of solar eclipses? In this tradition, what actions can be taken to divert any negative forces that may come with it? Thank you. Once
Now,
again, it's
I
like
know-
meteor
yeah.
showers.
Well, there's a quote that I want to read. I hope I can find it. I hope the window is still open on it. But I know that you could spend a long time talking about this subject, so it's going to give me plenty of time to find it.
The only thing I would say about it is it's one of those things, like in America, we find these like celestial movements. We think, oh, it's fascinating. Let's lay on the grass and look up in the sky and look for the eclipse. Or I heard there's a meteorite shower at 1 a.m. this morning. Let's lay on the back in our backyard and look up at the sky. No, these are all inauspicious things. They're considered inauspicious. It's Rahu, they say, is becoming manifest, and Rahu has got inauspicious effects on us. And Lord Chaitanya appeared during an eclipse, because usually in India during the eclipse, everyone goes into the sacred rivers or stays inside. So the moon shadow does not go on the body, or they go to the holy rivers and bathe in the rivers, and they just chant Krishna, Krishna, their Lord's name, Vishnu, Vishnu. And so Lord Chaitanya specifically claimed during the eclipse of the full moon, because he knew everybody would be chanting. So in that chanting, they say everybody was chanting, even the atheists or the people who weren't serious about the spiritual life.
Help.
If it's going to help, all right, I'm going to get in the river and chant, because this means trouble for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you want? What do you
So
got for
I
this?
found what I was looking for.
Okay.
So this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 8, text 27 and 28. And I found this, and I'll preface reading this by sharing that things like what Michael's bringing up, eclipses, the influence of the planets, right? Different, some malefic planets,
Mhm.
right? Things that may bring dark segments of our life, into our purview or whatever. It's like there's and other inauspicious things that we may come across in life. There's a whole science of understanding how these things work, and the Vedic teachings, they get into definitely astrology like a very refined powerful science of astrology.
Mm.
And things like palm reading are there. All of these things have their cheap imitations and ridiculous,
Sure.
they're kind of,
Manifestations.
mockery. It's practically a mockery of these things, a lot of the stuff that we come across. That doesn't mean that there weren't precise sciences about this, and there are. So it can be palmistry, it can be astrology, and so many other different
Omens,
rituals.
the reading of omens.
Omens, rituals, and so on. It's all there. But when you come to the stage of bhakti, you understand that behind all of that science, it's all a science of understanding the energies of Krishna and how they manifest in this world. And so there is an interest in it, and even there can be a fascination in it. But our real fascination is not lost in how it manifests in the material world. It's the real fascination is the person behind it all.
Mm.
And if this world is a virtual reality, in a sense, we could get very caught up in the fascinating way that this virtual reality is programmed. And there's certainly an interest in that. But the interest for the bhakti yogi is always it always goes back to the sarva karana karanam, the cause of all causes, the programmer behind it, from whom it all stems. And with the understanding that we have an eternal loving relationship with that being.
Mm.
And that loving relationship, all of the shifting in this world and all of the karma that plays out in our lives, represented in or influenced by these planets and these various influences, is all designed for one purpose. And that is that we turn ourselves back to that and take shelter with love in our hearts to that programmer behind it all. I always like to say that I believe the very apex, or the climax, whatever you want to call it, of all of Vyasadev's literature, the Vedas and the Upanishads and the Itihasas, Mahabharata, the Puranas, they all build to the Bhagavatam, where we get the clearest and most direct message and the conclusion, and literally it's called the cream of the cream of all of the Vedic literatures. And that builds and builds and builds until you get to the 10th canto, which is like the cream of the cream of the cream. And then if you took that cream and whipped it some more, you would get the Rasa Lila, right? The very pinnacle of all creation, where the greatest yogis of all, the gopis, their meditation on the divine truth is deeper and with the deepest, most purest and beautiful sentiments in the hearts and minds of these yoginis, the gopis.
Mm.
And the pinnacle is when Krishna plays his flute. The last place I visited, Raghunath and Vrindavan, the last morning I was there, I wasn't going to have the full day there.
Where'd you go?
Well, I in the morning, I was, somehow I just got the inspiration. I'm going to sit in my room and I'm going to just start going through different Vaishnava songs. And I was singing the songs and reading the meanings of them.
That's a nice thing to do.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Did you go anywhere? Or you just stayed put?
No, I went somewhere, because then I sang the song Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavan.
Vrindavan Mahimamrita.
Yeah. And then I came to that Keshigata Vangsivata.
So you're like, I'm going to Vamsivat. Yes.
Exactly. I'm going to Vangsivata.
Nice.
The tree under which Krishna stood and played his flute, calling the gopis. So I went to Gopeshwar Mahadev temple.
Love it.
It was great in there. It was happening. Which is the temple where we go to pray to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, maybe you can briefly describe Lord Shiva's role in all of this.
Lord Shiva is the gatekeeper. He's the gatekeeper to enter of the Rasa Lila.
Yeah.
He himself wanted to enter the Rasa dance, but
he couldn't in a male form.
He came in a male form, wasn't welcome. So one of Krishna's gopis said, "You know what? You really got to take a bath. Really got to change to a female form." So he's like, "How am I supposed to do that?" He goes, "You take a bath in Manasarovar and see what happens." takes his bath. He comes out as a beautiful cowherd girl wrapped in a sari. And then he just sort of like whoop, meandered into the Rasa Leela, started dancing. And then Krishna immediately felt like something is wrong today. Something is wrong. And he called for Lalita and Vishaka. There's something up today. Who are these girls here? Find out where they're from. So they went to each girl. Where are you from? What is your name? What is your village? Who is your father? And they're all giving, they came to Shiva. Shiva just completely covered for himself. Oh, yeah, I'm just a local girl here. And then he called them back and they said, Krishna, everything's normal. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. What is your gut feeling here today, Krishna? There is a new girl here. She's a young girl from a local village. She has a third eye on her forehead and a snake around her neck. Otherwise, everything's completely the same. That was
that's Lord, who's the Lord Shiva takes that form, Gopishwara Mahadev. He guards who's allowed into that arena. So before we go into Vrindavan at all, but also to Vanksivat, which is just down the block, you go and you pray to Lord Shiva as Gopishwara Mahadev. So I went there and then I went into Vanksivat and I had a wonderful, wonderful time there. It was my last place I saw in Vrindavan. But there Krishna plays that flute and the gopis, they come running. These are the greatest yogis, the ones that are most in touch with reality, the ones that are most deeply absorbed in reality. And that reality that being the supreme truth, Sri Krishna. So they ultimately, their hearts and their minds, they're ready to sacrifice it all just to satisfy that programmer who's behind everything. That's Sri Krishna, And when you do that, it's all auspicious. When you give your mind and you give your heart, no matter what your planets are, no matter what the lines in your hand are, no matter what meteors are flying around or what other inauspicious omens are taking place, it's entirely auspicious. When you remember Krishna, what is it? Why can't I think of the verse? Om apavitra pavitro va. One who remembers the lotus-eyed Lord, everything becomes pure, everything becomes auspicious. So this is the verse that kind of gets to the heart of that. This is, again, Bhagavatam 6, 8, 27, and 28. May the glorification of the transcendental name, form, qualities, and paraphernalia of the Supreme Personality of Godhead protect us. May that protect us, right? From the influence of bad planets. Meteors, right? Meteors are considered very auspicious.
Not good.
So from bad planets.
Halley's Comet, forget it.
Okay. Run. So may the glorification of the transcendental name, form, qualities, and paraphernalia of Sri Krishna, may they protect us from the influence of bad planets, meteors, envious human beings, who've got a little doll and they're sticking a needle in it of us.
Yeah,
right?
putting the finger under the Kastuba, putting a match under the Kastuba doll feet.
Yeah. So envious human beings, serpents.
That's a problem, especially here in Florida.
Scorpions.
Big serpent issue. Scorpions, problem.
Animals like tigers and wolves.
Yeah, wolves are a problem.
May it protect us from ghosts.
It's a problem. I mean, truthfully, this whole conversation, the whole time I was thinking about what about ghosts? What about ghosts? What about ghosts? Not that the holy name isn't more powerful than ghosts, but sometimes people are they've got so much. Sometimes people are possessed. What do they do? It's like it's almost like possession seems stronger than God.
It's not.
Do you do? Well, it doesn't mean that they'll necessarily be liberated from the ghost. What do you think?
Oh, it's the highest protection, Raghunath, no doubt. Absolutely no doubt.
But sometimes they don't. Sometimes the ghost is so strong. The possession is so
the
strong.
holy name is stronger.
I agree the holy name is strong, but they can't change the holy name because the ghost has got them so hard.
Have faith, Raghunath.
I have faith.
Apparently not.
It's just sort of like
where the ghost is
I want to
stronger.
climb up the hill. I really do, but both my legs are broken. You know what I mean?
Why? I don't understand. What are the broken legs in the analogy?
Because the possession is so strong, it kills sometimes maybe the desire. I don't know. I've been struggling with this.
No need to struggle, Raghunath. Chant that name with full faith. It continues. May it protect us from ghosts and the material elements like earth, water, fire, and air. And may it also protect us from lightning. Just covering all the bases here.
Covering all, yeah.
Okay. Because what about lightning? And our past sins, right? Rather than worrying about doing some ritual to counteract our past inauspicious actions, worrying about karma that's going to come our way.
Mm-hmm.
You just give yourself to the glorification of the name, form, qualities of Krishna. He said, therefore, we are always afraid of these hindrances to our auspicious life.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, may they all be completely destroyed by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra.
Very bold.
Okay, so, to me, this is always the real essence, right? There's an eclipse. What do? We chant. There's a meteor coming our way. We chant. I feel like I've got some bad planet, rolling through my life.
It's like crazy glue. You can use it for everything.
Yeah,
chanting the holy name it's perfect for every situation.
Yeah, and like those gopis when Krishna played that flute under Vangsivat, they all had like these lives and responsibilities and shelters, you could say, that they immediately ran from. They immediately left. They had family members saying, if you leave, you don't go running out to be with that Krishna. If you go, don't even come back, But the love in their heart was so strong that when that flute entered their ears and went to their heart, they could not help but run. And they ran out to Krishna. Krishna kind of teased them. What are you doing here? This isn't right. Coming out in the middle of the night, be with some boy out in the forest. There's all kind of tigers and stuff roaming around out here.
Looks bad. You left your family. You came here.
Yeah, no, you should go back to your homes, go back to your dharma, all the duties that you have in life and the shelters that you have in life. They said, no. Essentially what they said is none of that is what gives us happiness. All we want, with tears in their eyes, all we want is to serve you with love. Please accept us. Please accept our service. That's what the malefic planets, the wolves and the tigers, the bad omens, and everything else that this material world is programmed with. It's all to bring us to that point where we stand before Krishna with tears in our eyes and say, I've tried everything. None of it works. All I want is to serve you with love now. Please accept me as your servant. And when one prays with that kind of sincerity, then Krishna dances with you. Then Krishna embraces you in love, and all of that illusion of this world disappears. So that's in one sense, all of that is kind of here in the glorification of the transcendental name, form, qualities, and paraphernalia of Krishna. That will protect us from the influence of bad planets, meteors, envious humans, serpents, scorpions, everything.
We chant for everything. We keep it simple.
We keep it simple. Keep the main thing the main thing.
Having a tough time, you chant. Having a bad dream, chant. Going through some hell in your life, you chant. Having a great day, you chant. Things are looking up, falling in love, chant.
Yeah. So that will destroy everything inauspicious in our life. We should have that strong faith. Have that strong faith. Doesn't mean that you don't sometimes, cover our bases and stuff like that, or that we're impractical in this world. But ultimately, this is where our faith lies. So that's where I would leave it, Michael. All right, Raghu.
I got a nice picture of Gopishwar.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that
message board.
I got a split, Raghunath. I got a course to teach online.
Oh, do you?
I do. And I know you're a busy man over there too.
What do you think about that music? Understanding the gunas with music. Cannibal Corpse, insane clown posse.
I saw a girl with a Cannibal Corpse shirt in the Delhi airport.
Now, was she Satvik looking?
No, she was Tamasic looking.
Yeah. See?
No, I don't say that in judgmental way, but she was definitely had that Tamasic
Black lipstick,
colors
thick
and all that stuff.
airliner,
But I
thousands
thought
of piercings.
cannibal corpse. Does it mean that the corpse is a cannibal and it's going around eating humans, or does it
Oh
mean
my
that?
God, that's even worse.
Okay.
I
Or does
thought it was
mean,
a man who ate corpses, but you could mean
Yeah, or
that
does it
too.
mean that it's a corpse that a cannibal would eat?
It does roll off your tongue quite nicely. Cannibal corpse.
We are a cannibal corpse.
Insane clown posse too. It's like insane.
Those guys
Everyone
are
thinks clowns are insane, but when you say insane clown posse, imagine
There's a
walking
whole
down the street
posse
and
of it.
seeing a posse of insane clowns. I would run.
One insane clown is bad enough, but a
One
posse
insane clown. One insane clown. I figure, you know what? I could take this clown. A posse of
I
them.
could take this clown.
I could take this crazy
A
clown
posse.
swinging a
Get it.
stick. You know.
Are you still afraid of clowns, Raghu?
Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining us. Sorry, no show for the next 3 days. I'm taking full
Oh man.
credit for that. I apologize.
right.
But we'll be back on Wednesday morning.
At 7?
And guess what? Mr. Kostuba might even be at Super Soul Farm. Maybe.
Oh yeah.
Maybe. He's going to be hanging out at the farm on
I'll probably come up
Wednesday.
Wednesday night.
Yeah. And Thursday morning we do the show together.
Thursday morning we do the show together.
All right, beautiful people.
All right, everybody.
It's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. We're going to Miami today.
Oh. Okay.
Walter. Okay. Oh, there's Sammy. Hey, Sammy. Hey, come on. Move your head there. Say hi, Sammy.
Where's Sammy? Hey, Sammy.
Buddy, Arbo, hey, Kostuba.
What's happening, man?
Oh, just doing it, hanging out with this guy.
Okay.
We cold plunged yesterday. We cold plunged.
Oh,
There's
nice.
Parmananda. Oh, Parmananda, where'd you go? There you go.
Look at Parmananda. He's lounging there like Lord Vishnu.
Like Lord Vishnu's couch. All right, thanks everybody. Beautiful day, beautiful day. Let the magic continue to flow and a haribo. We'll. What time's the
7
show
o'clock.
Wednesday? What time's the show Wednesday?
7, right? You tell me.
7 a.m.
All right.
Mwah.